But right now, something I've been very excited about all day, we're going to talk to a gentleman who's a legend all over the world, but he's from Detroit, Michigan. He is the guitar player for the legendary Trash Brats and the current bass player of the current incarnation of the legendary Dead Boys. I mean, how much cooler can you get? We would like to welcome Ricky Rat to the show. Hey, brother.
Hey.
How you guys doing?
Doing great.
A lot better now.
Well, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you know, I have to admit it, man. I consider myself like one of those walking encyclopedia of music kind of guys. But you know how it is. Sometimes you just, you don't connect certain things. And I didn't realize when doing my research that we were booking the guy from the Trash Brats, who I love. I somehow didn't connect it, man.
Well, it happens sometimes, where like through all the years, like some of us, yeah, like you said, like, you think, like a lot of the bands or people in bands, and it starts to just it gets mixed up over the years,
It does. And thanks for being here from Detroit, Michigan. I love Detroit, man.
Oh, Detroit's great. Well, you're a Midwesterner yourself, so
yeah,
you know what it feels like out this way.
Yeah, I remember doing time with my bands over the years at Blondie's and some of those famous Detroit clubs too. And it's great that those of you that stuck around Detroit, man, congratulations. It's not an easy city to stick around in, I don't think, over the years.
No, it's almost like the secret's out now, though, like where all of a sudden Detroit's becoming the cool destination. There's actually people moving here rather than leaving here.
And, it'll come full circle. Eventually, you'll be like, like reigning king of that scene. You'll be like, wanted, Ricky Rat.
Yeah, or leaving here. No.
Right.
No. I think I'm definitely going to stick around here. But I mean, it's just interesting seeing Detroit become like a cool hip spot after people were scared of it for so many years. And there's obviously good and bad that goes with that.
Yeah, it seems like Detroit, like, of course, obviously it's a mecca for anyone who is a rock fan, knows the history of Detroit and Detroit music.
Yeah.
And then it seems like it kind of went through a phase where things weren't so great. Can you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, both like economically and, even music-wise, the scene-wise, a quiet period there. And then now, like, it's making a comeback, which it has been cool to see the last couple of years. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where never really went away. I mean, the music scene here has always been pretty diverse and pretty huge. A lot of venues, a lot of different kinds of stuff. And it seems like every few years, Detroit, somebody comes out of here. We give the world something else kind of unique.
Well, I know.
And,
Also, Kid Rock came from that area, and I was reading online about how the Trash Brats opened for Kid Rock back in, like, I think 95, and how you guys were merciful. You guys were just, like, treated like crap by the audience, but you persevered, and you even taunted the crowd.
Oh, yes, that's quite a classic video. I always recommend that one to people. But yeah, I mean, and that was a weird time because Kid Rock was still mostly just a rapper. He wasn't really into his rock phase yet.
Right.
So yeah, you're facing like a theater full of suburban white rap kids, and they did not want to see anything like the Trash Brats. So it was quite interesting evening for sure.
So what you're saying basically is they gave you a huge compliment.
Yeah, well. Like I tell people, I go, not to pat ourselves in the back there, but if you thought some of the old, whatever punk videos of like Sex Pistols or whoever, like seeing these bands get stuff thrown at them, you thought that stuff was pretty wild. I suggest checking out the live video of this our show with Kid Rock.
We're gonna do that.
We were hit with everything that they could think of to throw at us that night.
Oh, wow. I love it, bro. How did you originally start playing in bands in the beginning? How did that start for you?
High school, actually. Underage, there was a few rock clubs here in Detroit that we're kind of, you're kind of able to squeeze in, at like age 15, 16. And one of my buddies at that time, Brian, who went on to be the singer in the Trash Brats, we started playing together. It was around the early 80s, and by the time like 86, 87, that's when we kind of things morphed into Trash Brats. But yeah, we were underage. We were still in high school playing in bars and school nights and all that. So we're lucky we were able to do that when we did it.
Now, is the Trash Brats, are you guys still an active band?
Yes and no, because it sounds goofy saying reunion every time we do a show, because we do these reunion type shows in Detroit now, like you know, maybe once every couple of years. But so in a sense, it's kind of like we're, you know, you could say we're like a functional band, but in a way we're not, though. It's not like we're planning to go out touring or really release a bunch of new material. But it sounds goofy to say reunion every time we do a show, but that's kind of what it is. And we've been doing these reunion type shows now for, wow, I guess about 10 years already now, because it's been, you know, a long time since we first broke up. We first broke up back in 2001.
Wow. Quite the history, man.
Yeah, 80s all the way into the beginning of the 2000s. We hung in there for quite a while.
You know, it's weird, too, because I was thinking about the Dead Boys. I know, obviously, you know, we're all Dead Boys fans, and when those guys decided to, you know, get back together and kind of like put together another version of the Dead Boys to go rock, it could have either been really bad or really good. And when we saw the band, didn't know what to expect, but man, it was 10 times better than I thought it would ever be.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear, as a, you know, from a fan. You know,
dude, it was great, man. And I don't know how the heck not that you aren't awesome, because you are, but you told me off the air that this is the only band you've ever played bass for. So how did you get that gig? Out of all the millions of bass players, how did you get it?
Well, I guess it's just some of it's timing, I suppose. You know, well, I've known Cheetah for over 20 years, and then Jason, the other guitar player, I've known him for probably almost 20 years as well. You know, he's from the Midwest as well, and he had a band called Swamp Ass that used to play with Trash Brats, and so, you know, we kind of go back a lot of years, and he's been playing in Cheetah's solo band now for a few years. And then this other thing kind of came together originally just as kind of a celebration for the anniversary of Young, Loud, and Snotty. And they needed a bass player because their current bass player was just not able to do the touring that was coming up. And the guys thought of me, and I got the phone call. And so it was like, you know, yeah, this sounds great.
So cool.
I'm not usually a bass player, but, you know, sure, man, let's give this a try and see how this goes, you know.
What a dream gig, I guess. I don't know unless you're actually doing it, but from the outside looking in, it seems like a dream gig.
Well, it is. I mean, for us, me and the other guys they're the quote unquote new guys. I mean, it is a dream come true, and we're trying to pay proper respect, you know, to the legacy of the band, and you know, help keep it going as long as, you know, Johnny Blitz and Cheetah want to keep it going. I mean, and yeah, it's weird for us to step into a situation like that, but like you were saying, you know, I think if a band does it right and people appreciate it, then I think you feel like you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And you know, all false modesty aside, we know we have a really great sounding band, and we're really having a lot of fun with it, and it's great having fun with all the people, because, you know, it's been nothing but positive out there on the road, really.
I know that Johnny Blitz, the drummer for the Dead Boys, has had health issues over the years. And I also know that he likes what he's doing, but he's also seems like he might be in pain or having problems with dealing with some of it, because, you know, he's a little bit angry, but he still loves the music. How is it dealing with Johnny in his particular state? Is it hard? No,
not at all. Johnny and Cheetah are both great, actually. I mean, their whole mindset, or their heart, or whatever you want to say, is more like 25-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like, that's the joke, you know, make about this band. It's like, none of us are young kids in this band, but we go out on tour together. It still has that crazy vibe of like a bunch of 20-some-year-olds going out there, you know, like, it's not like old people's home or anything like that. So no, everybody's attitudes are great. I mean, it's amazing the amount of miles we've covered and the amount of shows we've done thus far, and it seems like we're just getting started, and we've been all over the place, you know.
Well, when we saw the show in Portland, we literally walked away, and I was with my wife and daughter, and we all walked away saying, man, that was like the best rock show we've seen in like a year. Like, geez, man, that was so killer.
Wow, thank you. That's great. That's an awesome compliment.
Well, I walked away with like an adrenaline high, and I wasn't even performing, dude. I was like, wow, it's kind of like when I saw the Stooges with Iggy on the reunion. I was high for 2 weeks, and I didn't even perform.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, it totally makes us happy when we realize that, you know, people are enjoying it. I mean, from all ages too. You know, you get the younger people that, you know, they obviously can get a chance to see the original Dead Boys, so they're only going to, you know, this is the best version, you know, that they could probably get. And then it's great though to run into the old timers who were there back in the day, and they say that they enjoyed it as well. So that's you know, very good compliments.
Well, and that was the cool thing about it that night. You know, our daughter is, or at the time was probably, you know, 23, 24, and she dug it just as much as we did. So,
yeah, that's great.
You know, obviously she grew up in a musical household, but and her, you know, musical tastes are pretty broad. But, you know, for us both to walk away from the same show going, wow, that was just kick ass, you know, is rare, you know. So definitely it says something about the energy and you know, the quality of showmanship and the music that, you know, you can please an audience that is still, you know, in their teens and early 20s, and then people like us who are in our you know, age group. So not a lot of bands can do that. And you know, I know that you definitely have paid your dues. I was just looking at you know, on the internet about these bands who come along on the internet, you know, make their own, which is great. The venue or the avenue of the internet is awesome. You can get on there and make your own stuff. You don't have to go through a label. But I think it still says something about the bands who have paid their dues and who have been in the business for a while. And I don't know, they just, you can tell it comes off in the way they interact with their fans and the way the music sounds. You know what I'm saying? How do you feel about that whole kind of
well, yeah, I think what you're saying, I think that's great, because I feel that this version of the band does that well, because it's not just not saying being young would be bad, you know, saying if there's a bunch of 20-year-olds up there with those guys, but yeah, we've all been around the block for sure. We're huge fans of these guys and their music, and like I said, we're trying to do it its proper, you know, respect, and we're all, you know, seasoned musicians, touring musicians. You know, we've been to the ringer and back, and I think all that does come out. And then I think the fact that the way we're all blending, all five of us together, comes out where people relate to it, like it's that old style thing of a band being like a gang, you know, not just like a bunch of dudes that just kind of meet up and, you know, play in the studio or whatever, but it's more like an old fashioned, the way rock bands used to be.
The way the Dead Boys actually were.
What way the Dead Boys were? You know, the old days that we were growing up, when bands, you kind of knew like everybody in the band, you knew all their names. They were all characters, you know, like that. To me, that's getting lost in rock music anymore, or punk music, or metal, or whatever. And I think honestly, like we're a band of characters. I mean, and I think that comes across to people.
Amen.
You know, like we're like a gang together. You could see it's not just, oh, these guys don't really have much in common, but then they get on stage, they play some songs, and that's it. It's like, no, we're, you know, I think there's a little bit of magic there to it for sure. I mean, it's really, it gelled that quick, and it's definitely not the easiest thing. It's not like everyone gets along perfectly all the time. There's been some pretty, you know, crazy moments, but I mean, again, that keeps it real, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. Also, you know, I was thinking, going back to the Trash Brats, you know, there are a lot of bands at the time, you know, bands that, you know, wore makeup and kind of were in the punk glam, I guess.
Right.
That, you know, were popular. When it comes to mind is bands like, you know, I don't know, like you think of like Motley Crue and bands that wore makeup at the time, but just wrote crappy songs. You know, like the Trash Brats wrote songs that were, you know, good songs. They made good records.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, and that's not something that happens regularly. So, you know, some of those bands, they just kind of come along, they're the flavor of the month, and they go away. But you guys wrote some actually good, lasting songs lyrically that crossed over. Did you do a lot of the writing in the Trash Brats, or who was primarily, you know, was it kind of?
Yeah, that was, I mean, kind of the whole band put the stuff together, and Brian Brian Oblivion, the singer, and myself were, I guess kind of the main songwriters in the sense of having, the lyrics and the music, and then the whole band would kind of, put things together. And, but I mean, when we were first starting, obviously a lot of that glam metal, hair metal stuff was big, and we really couldn't relate to most of that at all. I mean, and I think if someone listens to Trash Brats stuff and tries and listens to those other bands, you'll see there's not really a connection. I mean, we weren't singing about just partying or chicks or the whole Sunset Strip experience or whatever. I mean, we were coming from Detroit, and, it's more like we were more like a punk band, but we were dressed up, and it happened to be that era where all those bands were dressed up like that too. So we got lumped into that. But when, we were more into bands like Hanoi Rocks, stuff like that, New York Dolls, obviously, but we couldn't really relate to, Poison or, Cinderella or
Amen.
Those kind of bands.
We love Hanoi Rocks.
But, that's kind of what we got lumped into, because people might just see the hair and makeup, and if, you're playing a punk show in 1988 and you look like us,
right,
you're going to get shit thrown at you. You're going to be fighting skinheads and all that stuff. And that's exactly what we went through in those days, because, we were more of a punk band, but then the punks, a lot of people didn't really listen, and they were ready to kill us just on the way we looked.
Amen. I'm glad they didn't. Listen, man, it's been really cool. I know Tracy's got more questions, and so do I, but
I do.
We don't have a ton of time left, but I'd like to know what the future plans for the Dead Boys with Ricky Rat. What are the plans for you guys?
Hello?
Hello? Uh-oh, I think we might have lost him. Hello?
No.
Yeah, I'm still hearing, it's still going on. The phone call is still looking like it's on. Are you on? You might have muted us, Ricky. Did you mute us? Wow, we lost him after 20 minutes. Yeah, see, look, it says the phone's still on. I don't get it. Hello? Somehow we lost the connection, guys. Should we try to call him back live real quick? Let's try to call him back live. We can't end it like this, right?
No, we can't.
Okay, let's try it, guys. This is live radio, my friends. Hey, Ricky, are you there? You there? Oh, something's going on. Ricky? I'm not picking you up through our speaker system all of a sudden. Hang on a second. Let's try this. Okay, try it again. Okay, anyway, thank you for the time tonight, my friend.
Absolutely.
For some reason, we're having some kind of audio problem, but at least it's at the end of the interview.
Yeah, I can hear fine over the headphones. So
okay.
yeah.
So what?
We can hear you now. Okay.
All right, what are your plans, future plans, and then we'll let you go for the Dead Boys.
Well, just we're taking some time off right now, but mid-year onward, we're supposed to be going over to Europe this year finally with it. So that will be good.
You're going to Europe. Awesome, man. Well, you know what? We're having some difficulties here, Ricky, but it's been our allotted time anyway, so it wasn't in vain, and we really appreciate your time tonight, my friend.
Well, I appreciate you as well, and I will be in touch again here.
Yeah, we would love to have you back on the Church of Rock, because I have I have a whole 5 or 6 more questions at least that I wanted to ask, but we're just out of time. So we'd love to have you back on the show if you would do that for us.
Absolutely, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, and next week, my friends, we will feature a little expose on the Trash Brats from Detroit, Michigan. I'll get the songs from Ricky himself, and we'll play some cool rock next week with this legendary rocker. Ricky Rat, thanks again, brother.
Woo-hoo. Thanks again for having me.
Thanks so much, Ricky. You have a great night, man.
You guys have a great one, too. Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers.
All right, man. Great interview. I'm not sure what happened on the phone there, but you know what? I think most of it was okay.
Yeah, we heard all of it. You pulled it out and figured out another way to finish that. But yeah, what a cool cat, man. He's
such a cool cat.
Yeah, and I really had a lot more questions. I know they've played with bands like Cheap Trick and obviously Johnny Thunders, Gigi Allen, Joan Jett. They've played some gigs with some pretty cool people. So I know he's got some awesome stories to tell. And I wanted to talk to him a little bit more about, the songwriting stuff. And so, yeah, we'll definitely have Ricky Rat back on, because I think he's great. He's a great guest. And, we always have great guests here on the Church of Rock, but sometimes they don't really like to talk very much.
Yeah, we will definitely try to ask Ricky to come back on, because I can tell that he has so many more stories that we need to share.
Yeah, absolutely. But how about we go ahead and move along, and how about we play some Dead Boys, man?
Yeah, next week we'll actually play Ricky's music. I apologize for not having his actual music tonight, but next week we will, and that gives him 2 radio shows to be on in 2 weeks, right?
Absolutely.
This is going to be something from the Dead Boys' second album, We Have Come For Your Children. Pretty cool tune, man. It does feature, I think, Jeff Magnum, the original bass player on this one, who has actually been on the Church of Rock and had his own segment on our show years ago. We'll talk more about that later. It didn't end well. Jeff's not a very happy guy, but here's a tune called Big City with the Dead Boys. Thank you, Ricky Rat. It's the Church of Rock and KSKQ.
Church of Rock.